We are on chapter 17. She knows, Maddie thinks, same as she thought would star. She knows. Knows what? Maddie still cannot say. Not some horrible secret. There is something in the stories, just that there are stories. That they are from some place inside of her. That they matter. She knows, Maddie thinks, and she does not want to be my friend. Out in the garden. Well, I have kids here, Evan, at school. She will be with him out in the garden. Okay. Out in the garden, Uncle Potluck is singing about a message in the bottle, sending an SOS. She should be with him, out in the garden helping, not thinking about stupid things like stories and friends. Maddie swats the notebook closed, slaps it under her pillow, runs out of the room and down the hall and out to the garden. That you, Maddie May? Uncle Potluck peers around a cornstalk. I came out to help, Maddie says. Can't say there was much to do out here right now. We're even down to the last of the corn. Tomorrow, we'll have ourselves a big corn feast. Invite Crystal and Quincy. Tommy will invite himself. That sound okay to you? No, Maddie thinks. Uncle Potluck pushes back his hat on his head. He wants to see her better, Maddie knows, but she turns her face towards the garden dirt. You sure there is nothing I can do to help? She says. Well, there are a few stray weeds here and there. It would be a favor to me if you could rid the place of them. Maddie nods fast. Which ones are the weeds? Follow me. Uncle Potluck leads her to the edge of the corn patch, pointing to a slender yellow blade of grass poking out of the soil. Kneels to plunk it out. Hoots! Hoots! Maddie kneels like Uncle Potluck does, hoots too. I admire your attention to detail, Maddie May, but unless you have a traitorous knee, the last part is optional. Uncle Potluck sits on the grass. You go ahead and weed now. I'll supervise. There isn't much to weed. She'll be done in 2 minutes, maybe 3, but Maddie does not want to be done, does not want to think about anything but being a help to Uncle Potluck. How did you get your traitorous knee? She asks, hoping there'll be a story behind it. There is. Stella, Uncle Potluck says. Uncle Potluck has had lots of girlfriends, Maddie knows. Made some of them mad too, but she can't imagine him making one of them mad enough to bust up his knee. Stella, 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 Uncle Potluck says. Laziest dog in the United States Army. Dog, dog. Stella was one of the small squadron. Bleh. Stella was one of the small squadron of pound dogs rescued for intimate intimate immunity. Stella was one of the small squadrons of pound dogs from intimate demise brought to Fort Kincaid to train with me and my fellow MPs as trackers. So basically, they saved the dog from the pound, okay? And it was going to help them out. It was an honor most of the dogs took seriously. All Stella wanted to do was take a nap. There's another one infiltrating the carrot patch. See? Uncle Potluck points to a short, scrawny weed. It was nearly dead, but Maddie rushes to pluck it anyways. It was suggested by my supervisor that Stella's lack of initiative was a cry for increased training. I don't think I need to tell you that I was not at liberty to disregard the suggestion of my supervisors. Instead, I disregarded that evening's weather forecast. Certain that Stella and I would conclude our training long before the predicted storm blew in, I doused a buddy of mine in Old Spice and sent him out to lay a trail in the nearby woods. Half an hour later, he returned, telling me he'd made a simple loop through the trees. No one so obvious, even an unmotivated hound like Stella could follow it. Now, the forecast storm was one of the many we had endured that week, and the woods were muddy. After Stella seemed to have caught the scent, after an hour of wandering, though, I was convinced she was lost. I'm embarrassed to say, so was I. Which is when the storm blew in, complete with a light show and sound effects. Lightning, Matty ass, and thunder, which I soon discovered was a particular fear of my hound dog colleague. One boom, and she bolted. I raced after her, slipping and sliding in mud, barely keeping a hold of her leash when bang! The earth gave way, and my right leg dropped into a deep gopher hole. My left leg, unaware of the continued after Stella. I will spare you the description of the pain I then endured and the vocabulary offenses I thus unleashed, but I will tell you that with all my yelling and cursing, I also unleashed Stella, who tore off into the woods. And There was a buzzing sound, and Uncle Potluck pats his shirt pocket, searching for his cell phone. Maddie finishes his sentence, and that's how you got your traitor's knee. Uncle Potluck hoots as he stands. Custodial art, he says into his phone. It's on my laptop, he says, heading into the house. Just a minute. Poor Uncle Potluck, Maddie thinks. Just trying to help a dog getting his knee busted. Poor Stella, too. Maddie pulls a weed from a turnip now, looks around for another, but there are no more weeds to pull. Nothing she can do. If she were Mama, she'd say the going had gotten tough. If she were Mama, she would get going. But where was she supposed to go? She cannot follow Uncle Potluck, cannot write in her notebook, does not want to go back to her room or to the tent or to the rock on the rise. Instead, Manny stands there, weeds in hand, not going anywhere, not looking, not looking, not looking, at the spot where Miss Sweet's car used to be. Chapter 18. Later, Miss Sweet calls from the restaurant. She and Quincy are eating, she tells Uncle Potluck. They are having an awesome time, she says. So she's going to skip work tonight, so Quincy won't need to sleep over. It's okay, Maddie says. It is okay. It will be good to sleep in her bed tonight because she is tired, and it is okay that Quincy isn't coming over after all. That night, Maddie puts her fingers tight to Minnie. It's okay, she tells him. She is careful not to twist. She is careful not to twist for hours and hours. And then it is morning. Chapter 19. It is Thursday, D-Day, Uncle Potluck says. Doorknob day. Maddie is pushing the cleaning cart, listening to its wheels cluchunk, cluchunk, cluchunk over the tile floor, following Uncle Potluck down the Mitchell P. Anderson Elementary hallway to the administrative office. The cart has trash bins on it and a vacuum and slots for spray bottles and paper towels and things for dusting. The vacuum sits tall, so Maddie has to peek around it to see Uncle Potluck, and sometimes she can duck behind it so he can't see her, like when she needs to yawn, which she does every dozen chunks or so. She peeks around again, just in time to see Uncle Potluck signal her to stop so he can salute the painting of Principal Bonnet. This time, Maddie salutes too. Maddie May, Uncle Potluck says, I'd like to request that you leave this one detail out of your otherwise impeccable account of our custodial endeavors. Should our fair principal find that I've been saluting her visit, she may not take it in the spirit in which it is meant. Maddie nods, and it seems like maybe I ought to be the only one doing the saluting too, for prosperity's sakes. She does not ask what prosperity means, does not want Uncle Potluck's thinking there is still some custodial wisdom she does not understand. Not today. Today, she has decided, is the day. She will not wait until the weekend. Today, she will work hard and do everything right, and at the end of the day, she will tell Uncle Potluck about her custodial apprentice plans. And he will say that is a very good idea, that she should not bother with lunches and recess and to stick to janitorial pursuits, and it will all be okay. Pay attention, Maddie reminds herself. I know that you are a person who keeps her own counsel, Uncle Potluck is saying, but I'm glad to know you won't be recording my saluting for prosperity, just in case your notebook falls into the wrong hands. Maddie does not think about the wrong hands. Instead, she thinks about Uncle Potluck's hands, watching them fish his key ring from his pocket, flip key after key till he finds the one for the administrative office. The main door has a knob on it already. It's the inside doors that don't, Maddie sees. The principal's office door and the storage room door and the nurse's office door. So we got 3 door handles to fix. Maddie chunks the car into the administrative office carpet, parks it carefully by the reception desk, out of the way where nobody can bang into it. She and Uncle Potluck will clean in here after the doorknobs get put in, vacuum dust through the windows. Right now, Uncle Potluck is hooting, kneeling outside the nurse's room door, opening his toolbox, readying for doorknob installation. There's a couch in the nurse's room. Maddie can see it from the spot behind Uncle Potluck. She is not tired, she reminds herself. Shall we begin? Uncle Potluck asks. Maddie's notebook's open to the Mo page, but she flips it fast to a clean one, writes down everything Uncle Potluck does. Some of the doorknobs have stems out the back and some are flat. Maddie watches, writes down how Uncle Potluck pushes the stem knob through the door hole and then it fits a flat knob onto the other side. How he twists in 3 screws to secure it. Then what? Then there is one last step, Maddie May, for which I will need your expertise. Maddie sets down her notebook, wipes her palms on her shirt. Ready, she says. Uncle Potluck waves her into the nurse's room and shuts the door behind her. Maddie stands there, wonders exactly what her expertise is. Okay, now, Uncle Potluck says, open the door. Maddie turns the knob. Pulls open the door. Uncle Podluck smiles. Accomplished with dexterity and finesse. Maddie does not smile. Her expertise is opening a door. Uncle Potluck's phone buzzes. Principal Bonnet needs him in the faculty lounge to answer questions about the floor polishing schedule. Yes, he says for formal into it, of course. Maddie May, I have been called into service, but I shall return. Why don't you take this opportunity to lie down for a bit? You look fatigued. I could go with you, she said. I could help. Rest, he says. I am certain I can handle things on my own. Uncle Potluck leaves, pulling the nurse's door half closed behind him. Maddie is certain he can handle things on his own too. Can handle everything on his own. How is she supposed to show him how much he needs an apprentice if he can do everything fine without her help? Past the half closed door, Maddie spies the cleaning car. She could clean, couldn't she, while Uncle Potluck is in the meeting? That would be a help. Quick, Maddie goes to the vacuum, thumps it down to the carpet, unspools the cord, pulls it into the plugs it into the socket behind the administrative office door. Zoom zips the vacuum under chairs behind the reception desk into Principal Bonnet's office, stretching it as far as the cord will let her. Done. Maddie looks back at her work. The carpet looks exactly the same as it did before. She could not tell she had vacuumed at all. How will Uncle Potluck know what a help she has been? Maddie leans back, clunking her head on Principal Bonnet's office door. She could install the doorknobs. He would see that for sure. Maddie hauls Uncle Potluck's toolbox into the principal's office, checks her notebook. Stem knob through hole. Flat knob on the back. Screw twist in 1, 2. Maddie does what the notebook says, sliding the stem knob through the door hole, fitting the flat knob onto the other side, pushing its screws, turns around until it is tight. If she hurries, she'll finish before Uncle Potluck gets back. He'll be proud of her. Will say, fine work, and how will I get along without you once the school year commences? And that's when she'll tell him her plan. She imagines his face filling with relief, sees him bringing her back to authorized personnel, showing her the special chair he's already made for her. Maddie May Breen, custodial apprentice, printed on the back. The last screw twists into place. Now, all she needs to do is test things. Maddie turns the knob right, then left, watches the silver tongue poke in and out of the side of the door, walks around to the outside knob to test that too. There's a button on it, a lock. She pushes the button, then the knob stops turning. The lock works. Now for the final test, her expertise. Maddie hurries back into the principal's office and shuts it. The vacuum cord is wedged tight underneath, so she has to push extra hard against it. And finally, the door closes. Click. Maddie May Breen, custodial apprentice, will now demonstrate her opening door expertise, she says. But when she turns the knob, it will not budge. The button, she remembers, she had left the button pushed in on the other side of the door. She had put the doorknob on backwards. Maddie May Breen has locked herself in the principal's office. Uh-oh. Days pass and weeks pass, and no time at all passes until Maddie hears Uncle Potluck's muffled singing outside the administrative office. She will call to him and tell him she has locked herself in, tell him how she is the one who needs help, how even her door opening expertise has failed. Uncle Potluck sounds louder once the administrative office door opens, and Maddie hears him full voice singing about a magic someone he's resolving to call. Uncle Potluck, she says. It comes out quiet. But even if she is shouting, Uncle Potluck would not have heard her over all that happens next. All that happens at once. The vacuum cleaner leaping and tangling sound like an old guitar, and a crash, a horrible crash, followed by words Maddie has heard mostly in movies and on the playgrounds, words unleashed. Maddie does not need to see him to know what has happened. Uncle Potluck has tripped over the vacuum cord that she left plugged in by the administrative office door. Uncle Potluck, Maddie calls, are you all right? There is a pause, long and deep enough to drown in. Maddie hears a who and another. Maddie May, Uncle Potluck says. I fear my traitorous knee has turned on me, and I am in need of your assistance. He needs her. Uncle Potluck really, truly needs her, and there is nothing she can do. It is Principal Bonnet who finally helps him, answers his cell phone call and comes to his rescue, helps him to his feet and out of the administrative office. Principal Bonnet who comes back for Maddie, knocking gently on her own office door before she opens it. I'm sorry, Maddie says. He'll be okay, Principal Bonnet says. Maddie nods, reaches for the vacuum so she could wrap the cord up like she should have done right off. Like she would have if she was a real custodial princess. I'll get someone to do that, Principal Bonnet says. Right now, we need to get your uncle to a doctor. A doctor? Uncle Potluck needs to go to a doctor? Maddie has been picturing him and authorized personnel wrapping his traitorous knee with electrical tape, but Uncle Potluck can't fix what Maddie has done to him. He needs a doctor. Maddie picks up her notebook with one hand, discovers she is still holding the screwdriver tight in the other. She could have untwisted the screws. She could have taken out the knob and freed herself and racked the vacuum cord up right and saved Uncle Potluck from getting hurt. She could have fixed everything. All right, we are out of time there because you guys have to go to social studies. Thank you for joining. This will be posted in case you missed some of it. Go to social studies. See you later.